video, I am going to be installing a swivel seat in my VW Crafter campervan. And for this video, I'm using the MobiFrame single swivel base. I thought it would be useful because I couldn't find any other videos out there of this particular install using this swivel base, and I believe it's a relatively new product to the market. The reason why I went for this swivel base is mainly because it's M1 crash tested, so should be really solid and sturdy, but it also doesn't have any thumb screw locks that you have to undo. It's simply this lever here and then the whole swivel can spin the seat round. It's also specifically designed for the VW Crafter. The main points here is that it uses these small holes, one there and one at the bottom, which allows for the locating pin on the bottom of the seat rails for the VW Crafter. So in this video, I'm going to walk through the install of how I have installed this swivel seat to my Crafter. This video will also apply if you've got the MAN TGE. And this video is really a follow-on from my previous video where I converted a driver's side seat into a passenger seat and installed that into my van. So if you haven't seen that video, go watch that first and then come back and watch this one. So in the kit that you get with the swivel seat, you get 4 long countersunk bolts with an Allen key head. I think it's a 6mm Allen key that you need. And then you get 4 stubby little bolts, also countersunk with a 6mm Allen key. You get 4 heavy duty washers and 4 heavy duty nuts. Other tools you're going to need are a 17mm spanner. I've also got a 17mm socket just in case. And to get the bolts off the seat, now you may have different bolts depending on how you've bolted your seat to the seat base, but I'm using these VW spline nuts, which I've already taken off and won't be reusing because I'm going to be instead using these longer countersunk bolts. I'm going to walk through every step that I've taken to install this swivel base. Full disclaimer, I have already installed it and then taken it off again. I did a whole video and then realized that I hadn't recorded the audio. So I'm doing it again purely for your benefit. You're welcome. When I bought the MobiFrame single seat swivel from CGL, they did send me an email with the installation instructions, which I followed on the first install. However, because of the way that the seat base is orientated with the plastics, and I'll show you this in a minute, I think there's an easier way of doing that, and that's the way that I'm going to show you in this video. So the first thing in this job is we're going to want to remove the seat from the van. So there's 4 locating bolts on each corner of the seat rails. They need to be undone. Take the seat out, and then we'll get on to the next bit. Let's do it. Okay, so the installation instructions basically say to install the seat swivel to the seat base first of all. However, the issue with that, which I will demonstrate, is in order to put the bolts, particularly this one's not too bad, in order to get the bolts up, these little stubby ones go in here, you have to swivel the base round. Like so. Now the problem is that these countersunk bolts basically go up inside, like so, and then you put your seat rail on top. However, the gap here means that you can't actually get your Allen key in at any reasonable angle to be able to do it. So the first time I did this install, I had to take this plastic off, ended up damaging it a little bit, which was a pain given it's brand new. But even then, there was still a metal bar that goes across. So it's near on impossible to actually get an Allen key in there tight enough to attach the swivel base to the rails. So what I'm going to do is attach the swivel to the seat first, then install it onto the base. Just as a quick comparison, this is the R&J single swivel for the driver's seat, and you can see that the height is about 70mm, which is quite a bit taller than the MobiFrame. And the reason this is higher is because it allows this seat to swivel and rotate over the handbrake when it's down. I'm not going to do that because I'm on a bit of a slope right now, but in short, you put the handbrake down, lift up the seat a little bit, and the whole thing can swivel without having to modify the handbrake. Now you can buy the MobiFrame driver swivel and an adapter for the handbrake which basically lowers it, or you can get the, I think it's the Audio Swivels handbrake kit, which allows you to hinge, that allows you to lean down the handbrake out of the way. Now I may still do that at some point in the future, but for now I'm going to keep this because it works for us. We don't often swivel the driver's side, although it is a bit more of a faff than what this should be, because you've got 4 locating thumb screws around the swivel. So it's just a little bit of extra faff to actually turn the driver's seat. Hopefully you can see from here the height difference is it's about half, probably less than half in terms of the overall height increase that it's going to provide on the seats. It's a heavy piece of kit though. Now I've got the seat out, you can see on the bottom of the rails there's these locating pins that stick out the bottom. Now this is I've actually cut this down. It's a little bit longer than normally, probably about 10 mil. I've cut it down to like 3 or 4 mil. And the reason for that is so that they get located into there and the bolt holes go through this side. It has got space, but even the depth is not quite deep enough. And I tested this. So I put the seat on and the locating pins went in, but it was lifting up the rail, so it sat a bit too high, a bit too proud, and I didn't like that. So that's why I've cut these down a little bit with an angle grinder. I've already done that job, and then we're going to locate the swivel base to the bottom of the seat. So I've put the seat on its back, like so. I've brought the rails out front as much as possible by just using this adjuster to pull the rails out. Then what I'm going to do is offer the swivel up to the rails, but it's important to make sure you've got the red lever at the front of the seat, otherwise it won't work. So we're going to just open it up slightly, and then using those locating pins to get the right place, we can just about get our first screw in, like so. This is where you probably do with a friend. I have no friends available right now. So you want the first bolt and nut in together. Easier said than done, right? There we go. Right, we're in. Then you can get the second nut and bolt in place. I'm just lifting this bit up. That was a lot easier. Now this is where I'm going to use my 17mm spanner and my Allen key. And what I'm going to try and do is get the nut so that it's basically the flat sides are parallel with the rails. And then we can tighten up our swivel to it. Not really tight, just want to do it enough so it's got a good position. And the countersink should just, you saw it just pull in a little bit there. We'll do the same on the other side, like so. I'll show you a close-up in a minute of what I've done with the nut. Those countersinks should just pull in quite nicely, and we'll tighten that properly in a minute. So the next thing you want to do is basically slide the rails to the other side so you can then access the back bolts. And I think for that we're going to put the seat up on its base. So this is what I meant. If you imagine you had this and you've got the seat base already running along here, it's just impossible to actually get up this bolt, but this is much easier. Now you'll notice I'm not using a washer, I haven't used one on the front either. It's partly because you've got this captive nut kind of spreader plate, so I'm quite happy with that on the rear. However, on the front we may want to make may want to make a square washer to be able to spread any load in the event of an incident. Let's get the seat back in. Bear in mind it's quite a bit heavier with the swivel base on. Now the good thing about this is we don't have to worry about any cables for this seat because there are none. Obviously if you had a different seat and you were wiring in heat controls or electric controls and stuff, you'd want to run those cables down through this hole. The hole's plenty big enough to allow for that to be done. Again, unlike the R&J, which basically has a tiny little hole and you definitely have to feed through the socket to connect into the driver's side seatbelt signal, which is a bit of a faff. Right, so that's roughly lined up. So now what we're going to do, swivel it at an angle and then drop our 4 bolts in place. You just might need to give it a little bit of a wiggle until you find the thread, and then you can drop it in. Same again on that side, but these long bolts should go all the way through easily enough. The only tricky one is going to be this corner right here. If we slide back a little bit. The instructions don't specify a torque setting for these bolts, for any of the bolts actually. However, I just go tight as you can, feel the bolt and don't push it too far. So you don't want to thread them, you don't want to thread the base. But it's nice that they're countersunk, so you know that they're not going to catch. There we go, I think that's pretty solid. And so this is what I meant by lining up the bolts. You can see that the hex runs so that the sides are parallel to the rail on both sides, and that just allows, when you're sliding back the chair, it'll just run over those bolts without catching. But other than that, that is locked in and solid. Slides nice. You can see it's all parallel and flush. Nice tidy job that. Then all you got to do is move that forwards and the whole seat swivels. So let's give it a go. There we go. That's all right. Well, that for a space. Super easy to turn. It still feels solid. I mean, even in recline, I'm pushing back. Still feels like you're not going anywhere. And then when you swivel it back round, the way that it locks back into place, that is quite a solid thunk, whatever the noise is. Very happy with that. There we go. 2 swivel seats in our crafted camper van. One with the MobiFrame single swivel, and then this one uses the R&J swivel MobiFrame R&J. You can actually see the height difference between the 2 seats. I'm going to keep this for the moment. We'll see how we get on, because I like it. It's a little bit more of a faff than that, but it means I don't have to modify the handbrake or do anything silly there, and that helps. Plus it's extra expense, because I'm going to have to basically buy another 200 quid swivel plus a 90 quid handbrake mod, and then I could sell that swivel for, I don't know, 130 quid. So yeah, it's another, I don't know the maths, 150, 60, whatever extra to still make it swivel, but we'll see. All right, just for a complete comparison, I'm going to do a timing test to see how long it takes to swivel each of my seats. So this is for you, YouTube. Let's start with the R&J first, and then we'll do the MobiFrame. 3, 2, 1, go. Done. Now done. And now for the MobiFrame. Done. Just for complete security, I have also added just a little bit of thread lock to each of the nuts on the corners, just to make sure that those nuts don't come off because or loose. We'll keep an eye on that. if necessary, I might add a spring washer as well, but we'll see. I just don't want to raise the nut up too high so that the rail catches on it when it slides forwards and backwards. So there we go, guys. That is the installation of my MobiFrame swivel base to this single passenger seat, which is a converted driver's seat for my VW Crafter. If you enjoyed this video, please like, please subscribe. Massively helps this channel. Really appreciate it. Thanks again for watching. Peace out. Boom. And by the way, if you could hear a quad bike, horses, birds in the background, apologies. My kids have been driving around with their granddad on a quad bike. First world problems. Just trying to make a YouTube video here, guys.